Welcome to the Goat Shed. Today we want to do a video for you on the famous Gottlieb trip bank. Now there are a few important things that you need to know about these, and I guess sometimes they can be overlooked if you're a novice, which is fairly easy to do. So let's try and enlighten you. But today in the Goat Shed, it's Thursday, the 6th of January 2021. It's about 22 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which is probably around about late 70s in, 22 degrees Celsius, which is probably about late 70s in Fahrenheit. So the first thing we want to talk about on these trip banks is they can be undone. Now, one thing that a lot of people do, this area here, right here where the wing nut is, there's one on each side, one over the other side as well. They must be perpendicular to the frame. So that's what I'm touching there is the inner frame, and this is the outer frame. So what we're going to do, I've got Graham here to undo those two wing nuts for you, and we'll swing that unit up. Now the thing is that if they're not sitting like it is now, you can get all sorts of trouble with the switches. All sorts of trouble. So there it is, swung up in the air. Now when you've got it swung up in the air, you can see the underside of it. Now you can see all the switch stacks, you can get at them quite easily. And one thing that we really like to do when we're overhauling these is to make sure that all these rollers and the back of the switches are reasonably clean. Now these are a little bit dirty. We're not going to pull them right out and do anything dramatic to them, but as long as they roll fairly free, so this one over here is rolling nice and easy, and the back of the switch that it touches is clean. Now that just makes them operate better. Now here we have, I'm pointing to the armature plate. Now the armature plate has a spring hanging off it which hooks on to the bottom of the plate. I haven't got a separate armature plate out here at the moment. Now, in order to remove a coil from one of these, you have to firstly take off the spring and remove the armature plate, and then what you're able to do is loosen the screw on the back of the coil down in there. You'll see it there. Or not loosen it, but take it right out. This is if you need to do anything like that. But the other thing that you need to do is make sure that the springs are all on and in place, and when you examine the switches, it's important to make sure that the make brakes are making, and when they're not. I can manually trip this by pushing the armature plate in, and that falls. I can do it with all the ones here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this one here doesn't have a coil. It gets tripped by a bar, which is in the middle here. I'll just try and zoom in on that bar for you. This bar here, it's welded. And all we need to do is trip that one and both fall down. So remember that's quite common on the Gottlieb trip banks. Now, when we fold this back down, it's very important that you get these aligned. So that, like I said, has got to be flush, as well as on this side it has to be flush. If you don't have that right, the switches will be skew with and you won't get proper connections and things. The other thing is you have to ensure that the plunger here is free and change the coil stop whenever you do these. So we've already done the coil stop on this one. It's very simple to do. All you need to do on this is actually remove the 4 screws here, and we'll talk about those. They're an adjustment, they're elongated, we're going to talk about those after, and that will allow the coil body to come off this frame here. and then you can get at and polish the plunger and split your coil bracket by loosening the Allen screws, and off you go. Now there's a lot of wires on here, so it's very important you also get each wire and check it, pull it, tug it. It's quite surprising how often you might find a loose wire. Check that lugs aren't touching, stuff like that. That's important as well. You've got to be very careful. If you've got a continuation, get your meter and measure from one side of it to the other. Sometimes the continuation might start here and end here. Very, very important. Now, this particular trip bank is off a Big Brave. So it's a two-player game. So down here we'll have the game over relay, we'll have the tilt relay. As you can probably see, the bit of cardboard that's normally on there with everything is not on this game, so you know it'll be a matter of referring to the schematic to see what was what. Now here we have an actual switch operating bracket out of the game, and you can see that there. Oh, I've got it out of the picture now, haven't I? Still getting used to this. Here it is here. And that allows you to see how they are shaped and everything like that. Sometimes they break. These arms can actually break off. They're spotted on there. And if they do break, well, you've got to replace them because they won't operate the switches. That often happens as well. Now, when you reassemble these and test them, you have to manually trip the coils. So there's a little trick to doing that. You can put your hand under the back of the trip bank and away they go. What we're pressing there is actually the spring underneath. Now we'll just reset those. We'll undo that and we're going to show you what we're actually doing. There's two ways to trip them. A lot of people don't realise this. So what we were actually doing then, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so we can see. See that spring there? We just push in on that and it operates. The other way to operate it is push in the tail of the armature plate. Like that. You just hope everyone can see what's happening there. So obviously that's in the up position. We're going to put that in the downward position again now. Okay, we're down. And that's how you do it. So it's a simple matter of putting your hand underneath and feeling for that spring or the plate. Alright, once you've cleaned all the switches and checked their adjustments and everything, remember you're really best to check them in the down position, because in the up position there's a bit of gravity can take place and all of the things. What we're going to do now is just trip every relay in the bank, and we're going to show you what to look for when the bank resets. Now remember, a trip bank stays tripped till the end of the game. So once it trips, it could be for game over, and when the game restarts, it will reset. When it resets, all those operating arms are in, and every bank is in operation on this game. Now what we're going to slowly do, we're going to slowly push the plunger in and we're going to listen. Hear that? They all reset, and at the same time we had some over travel on that coil plunger. And the way to adjust that is to simply loosen these screws at the top and adjust that back and forward till you've got maximum or minimum travel, whatever's required. If you're never sure, it's a good idea to just maybe mark where the screws came from when you loosened them, but you'll often see. But they do get out of adjustment because remember, coil plungers and coil stops, there's a coil stop there at the back of it, over here. You always check to make sure that they're not loose or worn too badly. They wear down and it reduces the amount of travel, or it increases the amount of travel, I should say, because it's worn. So that's a very, very quick overview on trip banks. We hope you can understand that. We feel that if you get used to them, you should be able to service your pinball machines much more effectively. It's okay for us, we deal with them every day, so we try and think of little things to do to keep you informed. But what we really do ask for you is to give us the big thumbs up and like our videos and subscribe to our channel. So this has been another Goat Shed presentation.